영권
공동이 됩니다. 공동이 역전을 만듭니다. 이천의 갈비를.
Winners of the AFC Champions League 2020, Ulsan Hyundai.
You're listening to the K-League United podcast, proud partner of Football Nation Radio.
Later than usual, but I am joined by a man who put Sangmundong on the map long before Squid Game ever could. It's only Michael Redmond.
I'm going to be the elephant in the room and the only man hiding under a rock, and I've not watched Squid Game yet. However,
oh, really?
I have been told many a time, oh, Sangmundong boy. But it is the truth. I no longer live in Sangmundong, so... I mean, I will always be the Sangmun superstar, but now I'm the Gwangjingu gangster, do you say?
Gwangjingu gangster, yeah. You've just moved house. How are the new digs?
Yeah, it's okay. I've moved from an office tel in the mountains to a villa in the university area. It's a lot noisier, it's a lot busier, and yeah, it's a little bit more up my street with bars and restaurants. Like if we were allowed to go in, but soon enough we can test them out soon enough. Yeah, it's great.
I've seen that you've also got your own floodlights installed opposite your own house.
Always a minute into the podcast, we've already gone there. Yes, got a new restaurant below my villa, which hasn't even opened yet, and I had to phone certain authorities last night and ask them to turn the lights off because it is like Gangnam outside. I don't live in Gangnam, but it's like in the middle of Gangnam on a Saturday evening. They are so bright. I don't know what they're going for. I don't know if they're trying to like peer a light to the space station. Say, oh, look, here's Michael's apartment. But that's what's going on at the moment. It's never a dull moment over here.
Literally, never a dull moment.
Set myself up to fail, honestly. Yeah,
you did. Well, as I said, we're live. It's a bit of a off-the-cuff podcast this week just because... some last-minute changes, as you can tell, are a bit later than usual. So we're going to just jump straight in. We've got a bit of housekeeping to do before we move on to some news that's going on in Korean football at the moment. And then we've got Michael on, so we're going to go through to the K2. Of course we are. We're going to talk about the K2 and then the lesser party, but still just as fun, up in K1, before we take your questions in the mailbag. So if you've got anything you'd like to ask either one of us, please get them in the comments below, and we will try to get them either as we're going along or... well, at the end, if we don't. Anyway, first, as I said, bit of housekeeping. Michael, there's been a winner in K-League Survivor.
There has, yes. You'd have to give congratulations to Jared Sellers after Michael Burroff back to Chungnam Asan to get something against the Ansan Greeners. I tell you now, Survivor's always fun. I really enjoy Survivor. This year was my personal best achievement. I went undefeated and then lost 3 weeks in a row.
I did the same, but I did it right at the beginning. I went undefeated for a round and then lost the next 3. So I was out after round 4. It's been a stellar season for the champion, but for the Survivor, but it is a stellar season for our Survivor champion, and that is Jared Sellers. Jared saw himself through picking Jeju and seeing them walk away with a draw against Gwangju. And, well, we say a draw, but we will come to that. To exactly what happened there later on in the news. Elsewhere going on, we have an article from myself, cheeky little plug there, but there is an article on Pek Sung-ho on KLeagueUnited.com right now, how Pek could prove pivotal to saving Jeonbuk's season. Yes, I've bought into the hype at long last. We've also got a lot of other things going on over at KLeague.com. We're going to be having all the upcoming AFC interviews with 2 players from Pohang, 2 players from Ulsan, and 2 players from Jeonbuk, all over the international break ahead of the AFC Champions League quarterfinals. So do keep your eyes peeled for that. We've got some big names. I can tell you now from the Jeonbuk perspective, we have Captain Hong Jung-ho and Stanislav Ilyichenko, and we'll be also hearing some of those clips in the preview podcast, which will be in the next couple of weeks. So please stay tuned for that. Keep looking on the website for that. And if that wasn't enough, Michael, Paul has not 1, but 2 interviews with Gimcheon Sangmu personnel. And when I say personnel, you may be realizing I'm not just implying players. Yes, K-League United podcast favourite and, a man we all fear, Kim Tae-wan, has sat down and answered questions from Paul. I believe it was done online. COVID protocol obviously being the excuse, but more for Paul's own safety.
Yeah, he's thinking of that's a good thing there now. Knowing Paul well, I think he would have been a bit freaked out if he had to go meet him in person.
I think we all would be. But I mean, he's a brilliant manager. We really do like him on this podcast. Well, we've always raved about him, and I'm glad we're finally getting an interview with him. So that'll be on kleague.com. And speaking of the military, Michael, actually, you've been helping out elsewhere. You've been helping out research a documentary on Gimcheon Sangmu. That's a YouTube documentary. Tell us a bit more about it.
Yeah, so basically the YouTube channel is HITC7s. It's a lad in the United Kingdom, and he just puts random documentaries about world football around the world. Quite obscure, his videos, really interesting, good watch. He's plugged South Korean teams a few times. I've started to interact with him and talk to him about Seoul Eland, because obviously I try and plug Seoul Eland whenever I can. And he just approached me a few weeks ago and asked could I give him a bit of a hand with the Gimcheon video. Lucky for him, that was the same weekend I was actually in Gimcheon watching Seoul get battered. So I helped him out, and if you watch all the way to the end, you can actually hear the shameless Seoul Eland plug for the best team in Seoul, he says. So his words, not mine.
Spreading that Seoul Eland message. But go and have a look at that as well. Right, on to the news, Michael. And the news is the Korean national squad has been announced, and as always, people are both happy and unhappy, as people are with all international squads. Paulo Bento has named his team for the World Cup qualifiers coming up in the next couple of weeks. The team sees regulars like Son Heung-min, Hwang Hee-jo and Hwang Hee-chan make the cut as per usual, but also includes a call-up for Paek Sung-ho and his Jeonbuk teammate Song Bong-kun. First impressions, Michael?
Yeah, obviously it's, as you said, there's some surprises, but it's mostly the same team as you normally would pick. The games now, he's got one home game, which will be played in the Ansan War, one game away. So it's quite interesting because there are quite long distances between the two teams, the two countries. What is the rotation going to be like, especially such a short turnaround? Maybe you will see players who haven't played yet under Bento or hasn't come into the fold yet probably get a chance.
Yeah, and I hope he's not rotating too much because he's included 4 goalkeepers again. Yes,
I'm sure there's four goalkeepers, really.
I mean, I don't think he plans on using all 4. The interesting inclusion there is obviously Son Bong-kun. I think though he is just being included with the regulars like Kim Sung-kyu and Cho Hyun-woo, mainly to get experience in and around that senior setup. We've all touted Son Bong-kun as a potential talent for the future, so I guess it kind of makes sense to integrate him. Don't know whether he should really be integrating him in place of other players, but fair enough.
Yeah, it's one of them really, especially we're still in qualifiers, aren't we, as such? So it'd be to bring players in now would be a good chance than actually bringing them into the competition itself of the actual World Cup. Now is a good time if you really have a player on the cusp and you're thinking, yeah, let's get him in around the boys, start introducing them with the team and see how things will go with them.
Well, there is also one other moment of content. There is something else that has caused a slight uproar. There's no Lee Kang-in in this squad. Lee Kang-in, obviously a favourite with Korean national team fans, a player with lots of potential, obviously. He actually recently scored in Mallorca's match with Real Madrid, a 6-1 defeat to Real Madrid, but it was Mallorca's solitary goal. He danced through the Real Madrid defence. He's played 4 times this season in La Liga. He started twice. Were you surprised not to see Paulo Bento considering for this team?
For me, it's how you solve upon liking Lee Kang-in. I think Bento had to go with people he's seen more locally. He's got, obviously, because it's a big name under Lee Kang-in. I think Bento's literally just give it a chance of just going, do you know what? We need to give other players a little chance here now. I'd like to see him in the team, especially if he is scoring recently. And Yeah, I think Bento's just decided, as I said previously, now's the chance to try new players, bring them into the mix, and that's probably why he's been left out.
Yeah, well, we'll have our resident Korean national team experts on in next week's pod to go through these qualifiers. So anybody with comments on that, please get them in. We probably won't get to them today, but we'll pass them on next week, or you can get them into the next mailbag. But yeah, we'll go through the Korean national team in detail. But just to confirm the fixtures, Korea play Syria at home on Thursday, the 7th of October, before facing Iran away on October the 12th. The other bit of news, Michael, is Gwangju have forfeit their match with Jeju United 3-0 after breaking substitution rules in their recent 1-1 draw. But we're going to have Peter Hampshire joining us later on to explain a bit more about that. So let's move on to matters proper. It's always wise to kick a set off with a hit, and where better to do that than a trip down to the K-League 2. Michael, let's start this with the Line 4 derby. Ansan Greeners took on FC Anyang. What did you make of it?
Yeah, it's the Ansan versus Ansan Greeners versus FC Anyang. Bit of a strange one this year because obviously SC Anyang are the team which are flying high in the K-League 2, and Ansan Greeners they probably could have had a better season than what they are having. However, Ansan go undefeated this year against Anyang. They have literally managed to not take a clean sweep, but a win on a Line 4 derby for Ansan is something they very much needed, and in doing so brings them back up to 7th and obviously further away from the wooden spoon of 10th place. Yeah, Song Joo-ho scored the goal in the 72nd minute to put them ahead. 17 points separate the two teams, but as I said, Ansan are clearly becoming Anyang's bogey team and managed to get another victory against them. So, Ansan needed that win, as the next 3 games it's going to be Gimcheon, it's going to be Daejeon, and it's going to be Gyeongnam all away from home. So they needed to win that on the weekend, because I'd highly doubt they're getting 9 points out of them next 3 fixtures.
Indeed. And, another team that, they're doing well, but it's too late, perhaps a little bit too late for them in the season, like it is perhaps a little bit too late for Ansan Greeners to get promotion. It's not, they could still make the playoffs. I'm not saying they can't. All you Ansan Greeners fans out there, but there's Bucheon and Gyeongnam. They were in action. And played out an entertaining game, Michael. It was finished 3-2 to Gyeongnam in the end, but Bucheon got things off to a flying start, hitting the crossbar 4 minutes in, Park Chang-jun, before then converting a penalty kick, and that was converted by Han Ji-ho. Gyeongnam fought back almost immediately. Ko Kyung-min, 15 minutes with the equaliser before Willian scoring a long-range effort just before the interval. Bucheon then did equalise. Park Chang-jun actually hitting the target on the hour mark, but it wasn't to finish 2-2, which probably would have been a fairer result, I think, but it did fall in Gyeongnam's favour. A last-minute winner, Hernandez from the spot. The penalty awarded after Bucheon goalkeeper Kim Ho-jun, he came out for the ball and he didn't get the ball. He caught Ko Kyung-min in real time. I don't know. I didn't know whether there was much in it. After VAR replays, well, this is what we always say with VAR replays. Some things do look a little bit more malicious than perhaps ever really intended. Did you catch any of that at all, Michael?
I caught the second half of it. Interesting game. It was similar to like the Jeju Bohan game, but obviously we'll go on to that later when we're talking about the K-League 1. Yeah, Gyeongnam, 6 points now off playoff position. Personal opinion, it's a little too late to be climbing up there, especially Jeonnam gunning down. They've got some tasty games ahead of them. But however, they're keeping themselves in the fight. 3-2. You got to feel sorry for Bucheon, the way that the things have gone this season. They had a bit of such a terrible start. Had a bit of a good comeback around about late summer, about a few weeks ago. But yeah, 2-2 would have been fair. 2-2 definitely would have been fair in that game.
Yeah. Bucheon, it's they won the 3 of their last 4 before this match. As you said, probably a little bit unlucky to lose here. Are they better than everyone thinks?
I think as the season goes on, we're seeing this with teams that normally are 9th, 10th in the K-League 2. They have such a terrible season. And then when it gets like midsummer or late summer, they seem to just click for a couple of games, 6-7 games in a row. And they just seem to stop playing. And I think what it is the relief of going, right, we're going to be 10th, we're going to be 9th. This is it now. Pressure's off. Let's just play football. I remember it happened with Seoul Elan back in 2019. They went like 3-4 games on a run. They got 12 out of 12 points against some big teams in the summertime because they knew they were relegated to 10th place. Not relegated, but 10th place was theirs by August. So I think these teams, they just go, right, you know what, nothing to play for. Let's just go out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of teams with nothing to play for, Assam, they finished goalless against Jeonnam Dragons. Jeonnam not losing away, which seems to be their main trademark lately. Michael, can you tell us a bit more about this game, or is there anything to tell us about this game, should I say?
Well, as you said, Jeonnam, once again, not losing away from home. They say, I'm sure a famous man once said, you win your home games and draw your away games, you do quite well on the table. Stalemate, Assam. Once again, similar with Anyang and Ansan. Ansan has been a bit of a thorn in Jeonnam's side. In the last few games, they won 3-0. They took a 1-0 loss and then a 0-0 draw. However, if you look at the table, Jeonnam in 4th and Asan in 8th, sorry, you wouldn't think that the games would be so balanced as such. You'd think Jeonnam would have a lot more victories to the name. You know, Asan, they needed that. They lost 3 on the bounce before that game, so they really needed to do that before they started literally fighting for the wooden spoon with Seoul and Bucheon. However, yeah, I think Jeonnam now, there's no real, don't want to say panic as such, but 7 points separate them and Busan in 5th, so I think they're okay. With only 6 games left to play, I think they're going to be fine. For Asan as such, 3 points ahead of Seoul Eland. We played them last day of the season. It could all be to play for then.
Okay, well, we're going to get to Seoul Elan shortly. We will talk at the other end of the table. And no, that's not a dig, Michael. I'm sorry, but we are going to go to taking it back to 2020. We're going to go Gimcheon Sangmu and Daejeon Hana Citizen. Gimcheon coming out 2-1 victors in this one. Daejeon came into this on the back of some inconsistency, having followed up a 2-1 win over Jeonnam with a 2-1 loss to Seoul Eland, and with 4 points in their last 4 prior to this match. Gimcheon, on the other hand, they came in unbeaten in 6, having dropped just 2 points to, well, you guessed it, Jeonnam. With Anyang losing the day before, though, it gave Gimcheon the opportunity to move 6 clear with 5 to play. And that they did, coming out 2-1 victors, as I mentioned. So overall, a fairly entertaining affair, I felt. Good passing play, fairly end-to-end. Scoring got off to a good fashion. Jong Jae-hee with a 7th minute free kick before Gu Sung-yeon, goalkeeper Gu Sung-yeon, that is, turned it into his own net. Near post header was unable to be saved by Gu, and well, it looked like we were going to possibly see these two teams share the spoils, but no. Park Sang-hyuk had Park Ji-soo had other ideas, I should say, but Park Sang-hyuk was the one was the architect. Yes, this is live, everybody. Ryan Walters will be back next week. But yes, Park Sang-hyuk with the corner in, and it was headed in by Park Ji-soo. Daejeon basically outclassed here by an opposition with fantastic depth. And nothing really to add to this other than good win for Gimcheon. They are very much in the driving seat going into the final straight of the season. We are going to talk about that a little bit later, so I am just going to press straight on, though, to Seoul Eland. And Seoul Eland, they were playing Busan for the second time in just a few days, Michael.
Yep, second time in, what was it, five days or six days? Obviously, we know due to the restrictions in Seoul, it was behind there was no fans in the stadium. However, they were in Busan. I was there. I watched the game 1-1, quite entertaining. I expected more of the same on Monday, which was last night. And it was a quite interesting game, quite well balanced. Both teams both going for it, very open. It just didn't fall Seoul's way, unfortunately. There was a goal line VAR check coming towards the end of the first half. Obviously, the referee said it wasn't a goal. Obviously, opinions are opinions. You don't know what happened as such. But the first goal was scored by Busan. Wonderful piece of skill to put the ball in the back of the net to make it 1-0. And then it was actually Seoul who then equalised to make it 1-1. I thought it was a fantastic strike from Yoo Jong-hwan. Now, deflection or no deflection, it was still a fantastic goal and deservedly goal of the day on K-League Instagram. So, Yeah, and I thought Seoul were going to go on to win it, and then Am Jun had different plans, didn't he? Prior to yesterday, Am Jun scored against every single team in the K-League 2 this season, apart from Seoul Eland. He completed his set last night, which obviously had me jumping around the apartment. Tears of joy.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you were. I'm sure they were.
But going back to the game as such recently, Chung Jun-yong, the manager of Seoul Eland, came out and he said before the game, there's a 1% chance still of Seoul making the playoffs, and you just kind of think to yourself, why are you saying things like that? Just nip it in the bud. Don't need to make a comment about things like that. We've had a terrible end of the season. Not terrible end of the season. The competition's been quite fierce in the K-League too, but we are certainly not in the position that we thought we would be in. And we're certainly not in the position we should be in given the talent we've got in that side. Now, Busan back up to 5th. And is it too late for them to get into a playoff place? Personally, yes. But, a win's a win for Perez, who was under a lot of pressure on Wednesday night. He was getting a lot of complaints from the Busan faithful at the end of that game on Wednesday night. He needed to win last night, and he got the win for them.
Yeah, Busan really needed that. Still might be too late for them to actually do anything in this league, and it's, with players like Am Jun in their ranks, they probably really should have done better this season. But we're going to move on, Michael, to things that we've learned from the weekend, and I'll let you start. What have you learned from the weekend of K-League 2 action?
Playoffs are more than likely cemented now. However, you could say there could be a late push from Busan and Gyeongnam, as was literally just said. However, I highly doubt it. If you just look at the table at the moment, there's 6 points between Gimcheon and Anyang. There's then a further 6 points between Anyang, Daejeon. There's 3 points between Jeonnam and Daejeon. They're the only two teams I could really see overtake one another in these last 5 games. And then you've got Busan literally 7 points behind Jeonnam. So I think it's all said and done really for who's going into the playoff position come the postseason as such.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with you there. It's looking very much nailed on. And one other position I think that's nailed on are Gimcheon Sangmu in first. I think they're basically waiting for their coronation now. They've won the last 4, 6 points clear in first. They've took advantage of Anyang's loss, which was a big show of character, especially against fellow promotion contenders Daejeon, no less. And it's a fairly sure sign of intent. Surely they won't let it slip now. For people looking to put a date in their calendars when they might be able to see their coronation, well, the earliest they could win it is in Anyang in 2 rounds' time if they beat Ansan this weekend and Anyang drop points. So pencil in October 9th in your calendars. It'll actually be in the international break as well. So what better than a K2 title chase, I tell you. Michael, you've just kind of said it for us. Who is making the playoffs? You've already said nailed on. You don't see any team sneaking in. If I was to play devil's advocate here, Michael, who could do it?
Not Busan. Definitely not Busan. Because the thing is that they might be high and mighty at the moment now because they've got they got the win against Seoul yesterday, but they haven't been playing great football. They certainly haven't been playing great football in the slightest. That was their first win in however so many games. It's been a good number. Gyeongnam? No. I think definitely if they drew 2-2 on the weekend, I could have said no, it's not happening. That is the 4 teams that you've got. If you put a gun to my head, I would say maybe Gyeongnam could sneak in there if Daejeon or Jeonnam literally collapsed. But they're 2 teams at the moment now who are firing on all cylinders. Daejeon, okay, they lost to Gimcheon, but that was you're playing Gimcheon, the team that we talked so much about on this podcast throughout the year about how great they are. You expect Daejeon to have been second if it wasn't for Anyang's brilliance this year. So, yeah, don't move anything in my opinion.
No, yeah, I think obviously the main bit of movement we could see is between 4th and 3rd. They're only separated by 3 points at the moment. Jeonnam Dragons in 4th, Daejeon in 3rd. But maybe Jeonnam would prefer finishing in 4th given their away form. I think they've only lost lost once from away from home all year, and they're forming Guanyang. Well, we've certainly talked about in the podcast in recent weeks. It's been far from what they would like. So, yeah, perhaps John Nam finishing fourth. That'd be perfect for him.
Well, to be honest, their one loss this season was against Dejon away from home. The one away loss was Dejon. So, yeah. So you can say, oh, we'd rather play away from home, but it's the team that's already beat them once.
Yeah, just for people who might be wondering, I've just realised the team in fourth plays the team in third at the team in third's ground before the winner of that plays at the team in second's ground. So yeah, that's what we're talking about there. If you're wondering why we think John Nam finishing fourth could benefit them, but moving on from promotion and going upper league, as these teams will hopefully be doing, we are going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we are going to look at the K-League 1. Don't go anywhere.
FNR is a revolutionary football-dedicated digital platform, the first of its kind in Australia. It provides a 24/7 live online radio platform experience, podcast hub, and acts as a content provider for TV, radio, and digital. Having reached millions of listeners and football fans since launching, FNR is accessible worldwide via its website or app, providing a platform to discuss, debate, and celebrate the world game. We are your voice of football, FNR Football Nation Radio.
Hello and welcome back to the K-League United podcast. I'm Matthew Binns and I am joined in the studio by Michael Redmond. Hello, Michael.
Good evening, everybody, or good morning, or wherever you are in the world.
Anyway, we, before the break, spoke about the K-League 2. We're going to put that to one side. Unless you have questions about the K-League 2, then get them in before, and we'll get to them at the end in the mailbag. But onto the K-League 1. And Michael, I've given you quite an entertaining match for us to walk us through here. Pohang 2, Jeju 4.
Yeah, Jeju, a team I watched a lot last season because they're in the K-League 2. Rampant on the weekend. Absolutely rampant. They went 4-0 up against Pohang away from home on Saturday. And the final score was 4-2. Pohang pulled 2 back in the end. However, an impressive display for Jeju in the first half, especially. Mm-hmm. Now, Jeju, they have now gone and had the 4 win last 5 games. They've got 4 wins, obviously including that Gwangju forfeit, which Peach I'll talk about later. Pohang now lose 3 K-League games on the bounce, and they're in the bottom half of the table. Now, you might be a bit, but they're playing ACL still. They're still in the Champions League, so maybe that's something to take into consideration. But they're on the cusp of maybe being in the bottom half of the split if they don't pull the socks up and such. For Jeju, I think they're still trying to be in the top half of the K-League 1 come the split, which would be very impressive if you can get Jeju and Suwon both in that split, 2 teams that came up last season. They're currently 5th place, Jeju, and Pohang are 7th. So the way things stand at the moment, that is what's going to happen. Both Jeju and Suwon would be in the top and Pohang at the bottom. Do need to add as well, Jeju do have a game in hand as well compared to the other teams who are in and around that area. So very interesting to see what will happen in the next few games, in my opinion.
Indeed, and the fact that Jeju and Suwon have done so well this season, the fact they are in contention for this top half, is almost a testament to the K2. We always say how competitive it is, how difficult it is to get out of that league, and playing that kind of competitive football, fighting for the title, something we don't always get in K-League 1. We've had it the last couple of seasons, but not always. It's obviously put them in good stead for the test that K-League 1 has presented them. And it'll be interesting to see if they can hold on to that. But we are going to talk about who might make the split later on. But before we do, let's talk about one team that is making the split, and that's my beloved Jeonbuk. And they played Incheon United in Jeonju. I was actually I was in the stands for this one, Michael. A rarity for me. I'm usually in the media zone and or watching it on TV from afar. This was a foray back into the stands after a while, and it was good. It was good to be back in there. I don't I'm not a massive fan of the COVID restrictions. I am supportive of them, though. I do think that they are needed at the moment. Perhaps not so much as we get more and more vaccinated. Here's to 2022 being a far more open affair. But it was interesting just to be surrounded by supporters and getting to hear their opinions, because normally I follow the opinions, what I hear from people coming out of the ground or what you see on the message boards or anything like this to gauge the opinions. But just sitting there in the stands, just listening and taking it all in, and yeah, the fans, they're still enjoying it. They're still enjoying it. And one player that they are particularly enjoying is Pek Sung-ho, and that kind of did inspire me to write that article that we mentioned at the top here. I was already kind of enjoying what he was doing at Jeonbuk, but I think, having seen him this weekend in the flesh, I was really impressed with him. And he opened the scoring with a thunderous free kick. It's actually his third opener in 3. So he's not just scoring goals at the end of matches or consolation goals. He's scoring the opener to set things in motion in these games. And he's having such a massive influence on play. Incheon never really looked like getting back into it. Jeonbuk had a chance that went to VAR, but it was deemed not to have crossed the line with Delbridge clearing it. Then Jeonbuk were reduced to 10 men. Stanislav Ilyachenko getting 2 bookings in quick succession. He did look very fired up. I wasn't 100% sure. Oh, sounds like your delivery's arrived, Michael.
You're going to have to apologise to me. This is as we started talking about at the start, it's the same restaurant, so my apologies.
They've done you there. They've got the floodlights on. They got the motors, but back to Jeonbuk. Smooth. Watch and learn, Ryan. Jeonbuk were reduced to 10 men, as I said. Stanislav Ilyachenko getting sent off. He did look very fired up throughout this match. I'm not quite sure what had worked him up. Got a yellow card just for grabbing a player by 2 hands in the middle of the park and just throwing him over as he got away with it from him. And then his second yellow was for dangerous play. A lot of fans booing the referee, as you expect home fans to do, and disagreeing with the booking. But as soon as he went in the air, Peter was in the stands with me, and we said off as soon as the boot was too high. It kicked the Incheon player in the face. Yes, rightly sent off, I think, and he probably knows that on reflection. But it wasn't quite over from Jeonbuk. Good tactical substitutions from Kim Sang-sik. He brought on Gustavo for attacking midfielder Kim Sung-dae, but he also took off Kim Bo-kyung and brought on a right back, Lee Yoo-hyun. But Lee Yoo-hyun did really well in the centre of the park, covering and helping clean up, with Pek Sung-ho also getting heavily involved. And Gustavo won the ball with a header in the middle of the park, knocked it onto Son Min-kyu. Son Min-kyu then laid it back off to Gustavo, who managed to find a shot despite having 3 men around him and scoring from afar. And a good win for Jeonbuk, their 3rd win on the trot. And things are looking good on paper, at least, on Jeonju. All the criticism I made a few weeks back still stand. They are very slow in transition. It's not perfect yet, but the results are good.
Yeah, it's certainly looking like Jeonbuk might sneak it again against Ulsan, in my personal opinion. What's it now? Is that the 3rd season in a row that will happen if that's the case? We
Indeed,
saw Ulsan ahead at first for most of the season, and Jeonbuk will pull it back with a few more games to go. Can I just add on that, really? It was interesting to see, you might think in the past, it was only Incheon United, but they've not been playing great at the minute. They haven't won in 5 now, but to be 8th place and only a few points off actually being in the top 6, they've had a very good season. So not a respectable win, because you never like to win, but Incheon is still fighting, they're still in there. So let's see what happens in the split for them.
Yeah, let's see what happens. 4 losses in their last 5, unfortunately, but they're so close to the split. Just a couple of good results could turn it around for them. Moving on, though, that's too much about Jeonbuk. We need to move on to a thrilling affair. Daegu FC 0, Suwon FC 0. Michael, how was it?
Yeah, I had the joys of watching this one. 0-0 stalemate. It was a game. It was a game with 2 teams close to each other. A little bit didn't really go all out there. They both knew they were in a position where they could both get ACL. So it was a bit. there wasn't a lot of risk and reward in this game. It was quite pedestrian as such between the two teams. I'll take this time now to just congratulate Suwon on such a fantastic season. Don't get me wrong, it could still go all wrong for them, but they didn't have a great start to life in K-League 1. But now they've seemed to turn it around, and they are in 4th place now. They're in 4th place now, and they're only 3 points off 3rd, which are Daegu. So to say how well they are, how well they're doing the season, is what you said about the K-League 2. It's a testament to how tough that league is. It is a tough league. I know it because I've been following it for years. If you said anything, I follow the K-League 2 more than the K-League 1. So for them to go out the K-League 2 and then put a shift in this year like that, it's quite impressive to see. Indeed
it is. And well, 0-0, they'll take that. They're still up there in the split, and elsewhere at the other end of the table, perhaps wishing that they could be doing a lot better, is Songnam, and they did do better this weekend, it should be said. They beat Gangwon 2-0. 2 Ma Sang-eun headers in the end, first assisted by a Park Soo-il corner, and second a free kick into the box headed across to Ma by Kwon Kyung-won and converted. A good performance from Songnam. A worrying performance from Gangwon. We kept going on about how many games in hand Gangwon have. They have 3 over their closest challengers, Gwangju in 11th. But it doesn't matter how many games you have in hand if you can't win them. And they surely would have seen this Songnam game as a game that they had to win.
Yeah, definitely. And I was watching the game with a Seoul Ilan fan yesterday, and he told me to stop trolling Gangwon because I was looking up how to get back to the stadium next year. As you said, that they've got all them games in hand, but you've got to win them games in hand. If they can go 3 games lost and a bounce, they are in trouble. And, it happens. Teams go 4 or 5 games lost and a bounce in the K-League. We see that. They've got to be careful. Songnam on the other side, I don't know. The bottom of the K-League 1 is very interesting, in my opinion.
Definitely. Well, we are going to talk a little bit about Gangwon in the mailbag. There is a question in there, so we'll go a little bit more into detail on them later. But Michael, you had the joys of watching your Seoul, the only team in Seoul that you think. But there is another team.
Yeah.
They were in a super match.
Yeah, I had the pain of sitting through an FC Seoul game on the weekend as well. No. I've got to say, Seoul played very well. They got a 2-0 win. They really, not really needed it, but obviously they were in 12th at one point during the season, only a few weeks back. They got 2 goals against Suwon away from home, which is really needed. You know what I mean? The survival push is in full swing. They're undefeated in 4 games now. The only problem for FC Seoul is that Songnam keep matching their results. Every time Seoul get a win, Songnam get a win. Every time Songnam draw, Seoul's draw. So, you know what I mean? The next 2 games are Daegu and Gangwon. They could really get themselves out of trouble if they pick up points against them too. You'd say at the minute, Daegu might be a tough ask, but the Gangwon game should certainly be not even a close tie. The way they're playing at the minute, they should certainly get 3 points out of that one. You know how great the super match is. We all enjoy watching the super match, and SC Seoul is still coming out on top in that super match, even though they're in the position they're in.
Indeed, and bringing in that new manager, Anix, it seems to have livened things up a bit. It seems to have just refreshed it at the very least, and perhaps relegate Seoul is we're not going to have 2018 again after all. We'll see, though. We'll see. There's still a few games to go. There's still a split to be played.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to get relegated. I've made this public on Twitter. I don't think they're going to get relegated. As much as I'd love them to, I don't think it's going to happen.
That Seoul derby's going to just have to wait for another FA Cup fixture this year. There was one more game this weekend, and it was Jeonbuk's title rivals. Ulsan continued their stay at the summit with a 1-0 win over Gwangju. May have only been a narrow win, but it was a fairly solid result from the Harangi. Lee Dong-jun, he earned himself a penalty foul by Gwangju's Kim Byung-jin just before half-time, but then sent it straight at the goalkeeper and saved. But he did redeem himself with an excellent diving header in the second half. For Ulsan, they continue their stay at the top, which it's tight. They will still have to play Jeonbuk after the break, and who knows what could happen there. But for Gwangju, well, we thought probably best to bring on somebody who knows a little bit more about Gwangju than us, and also talk about their decision to forfeit the game against Jeju United. This was sorry, I'm battling with the controls. This will be cut from the audio version. This is a conversation I had with Peter Hampshire earlier. Peter, thanks for coming on to discuss the plight of Gwangju FC at the moment. The news at the moment seems to be focusing on Gwangju FC's recent forfeit to Jeju United. Can you just explain, first of all, what's really gone on there, and then kind of what it means for the club going forward?
Yeah, so the match was actually a couple of games ago now. They faced Jeju at home on the Saturday, and it relates to Article 20 of the K-League guidelines. If anyone loves some deep dives into the into the K-League archives, which says you should not make substitutions in more than 3 batches, with halftime acting as a kind of free hit, if you like. And unfortunately, Gwangju did that with the 93rd minute substitution of Kim Bong-jin coming on for Ji-sung. Mm-hmm. Now, ultimately, they've had to forfeit that game, which awards a 3-0 victory to Jeju United, as it says on that lovely ticker at the bottom. But Gwangju did have quite a considerable defence to that, because the 4th official and the referee said to them during the game that it was okay to do so. That's what's come out in the press over the last week. And interestingly, on the actual match day, no one seemed to realise, even at full time, I was at the game. I was going down in the lift with fellow journalists and a couple of Gwangju analysts, and no one was mentioning it. Everyone was just going about their business. I saw the players come through the tunnel. No one was talking about it. The Jeju players looked frustrated. They'd only got a point, and Gwangju conceded a late penalty. It was on no one's mind until a couple of days later when this story broke. And yeah, Gwangju were 1-0 up in the 89th minute, ready for 3 points, and they've come away with 0. And then the next home game, they conceded a last-minute goal to Jeonbuk, as you well know, and that lost them a point. So they could have had 4 points from 2 home games. They've ended up with 0.
Well, hard times down in Gwangju at the moment. Just to clarify, because I've seen a lot of different tweets going around. Some people saying, "Oh, it's because they should have made substitutions at half time," anything like that. Teams can still make 5 substitutions. It's just not 5 individual substitutions throughout a match.
Yeah, it's to do with the amount of batches you do it in. And Gwangju's big complaint was they were ready to do a double substitution on 84 minutes with Kim Jong-woo and Kim Bong-jin coming in at the same time. And if they would have done that, then it would have all been hunky-dory. But I think they did have a discussion with the 4th official, who said, no, it's fine. And that's where the big frustration comes from a Gwangju perspective, because from their point of view, they've checked with the referee, they've checked with the 4th official during the game. And yeah, there was a quote in Sports Donga who was with a Gwangju official saying it was a clear mistake by the referee, but we lost a point. And the KFA actually responded saying, even if there was a factor of a mistake from the officials, the responsibility for complying with the regulations falls on the participating team. So yeah, there's been a bit of fallout in the couple of weeks following the game.
Yeah, it's a bit of a difficult one, because we explained the 5 substitution rule back in pre-season on this podcast, and well, the batch rule was a rule that was unbeknownst to us until this incident. So yeah, just to add more dynamic to this rule that already includes under 22 player quotas and everything, it also depends on how many times you actually bring players on in the match. But yeah, so Gwangju, 0 points from those games, 0 points from the weekend as well against Ulsan Hyundai. It's not looking good for Gwangju, is it, at the moment?
Yeah, I thought the 2 home performances, I didn't get to see the Ulsan game, but I thought the 2 home performances were actually quite good. and I thought they deserved all 3 points against Jeju, which is just like a double kick in the teeth. But yeah, they've got, before the split, which is not far away, they've got 3 games. 2 of those are away, one at Gangwon, which just looks absolutely massive. I wish I could actually go up for that one. Gangwon away. And then the final home game before the split is Pohang. And then Suwon away. So yeah, I think they're actually improving in terms of performances. Kim Oh-young's settled on a system, and I think Ho Yul has improved in recent weeks. They've got On Won-sang is fully fit again and flying again. Lee Han-do was missing though at the weekend. I do think they've still got a chance. I don't think it's the end of the road by any means. But yeah, a huge game against Gangwon coming up in a couple of weeks.
A huge game against Gangwon. Potentially massive games once the split is announced as well. It would be quite helpful if they had a striker, a proven striker in this division. And we do have a question in for the mailbag. We're going to let you actually take this one, given your knowledge of the club. And I also understand your detective work as well. But in from Nick Taylor on Twitter, Nick is asking, what's happened to Jonathan? Will he play for Gwangju this season?
Yeah, it's quite a cozy press box at Gwangju. So I made friends with one of the Gwangju staff, and I asked him about someone else's injury before. I can't remember who now. And I asked him about Jonathan a couple of weeks ago at that Jeju game, and he said he's got a hamstring injury. And I double checked because obviously we're speaking half English, half Korean. I double checked. The guy pointed at his hamstring, so it's definitely a hamstring injury. And it sounds like he's not going to be back too soon, perhaps for the post-split fixtures and after the international break. But yeah, that's the reason Jonathan has been absent.
Okay, well, hopefully he does.
They certainly need him because
yeah.
Well, the big worry is if he comes back for the last 5 games. I mean, he's clearly not going to be match fit. He hardly played any games last season in China. And to be honest, with Ho Yul's improvement, I know I was moaning to you about how he doesn't move, but he has shown some more movement and a bit more understanding of K1 football. If it was me, I'd just stick with Ho Yul till the end of the season and focus on Jonathan for next year if he is going to stay. If he can stay.
Yeah, well, if he wants to stay in K League 2, if things take a turn for the worse, but we won't assume that's going to happen to Gwangju yet. There's still a lot of fight left in there, I think. But yeah, very interesting case for Jonathan arriving and not playing, and yeah, as you say, it's probably best that he stays away now for not to upset the rhythm, but. Who knows? He is a proven talent in this division, and hopefully we'll see him after the international break, as you said. Right, well, I best get back to Michael, who I've left in the studio, and I'll catch up with you again soon, Peter. Cheers.
Cheers.
Look at that. Seamless transition. Eat your heart out, Ryan Wallace. Thank you very much for that, Peter. That's Peter Hampshire there talking about the struggles at Gwangju FC at present and doing a little bit of Poirot work there, trying to find out where is Jonathan. Hopefully we will see him before the end of the season. Michael, one thing you've learned from the K League One this weekend?
Yeah, one thing we learned, Ulsan continuing to grind out results and keeping their distance from John Buck. But as we mentioned earlier, that's not always the way it ends with John Buck and Ulsan in the K-League One. Certainly isn't. The thing is, they keep winning. Obviously, to take away the 2-1 loss to Daegu a few rounds prior, they keep winning or at least drawing one-off draw. It seems like they're getting closer and closer and closer to that trophy, but can they do it this season? We say this every year. Can they finally topple John Buck this season? I know what your answer will be, but I'll be the neutral in this one and say and go, could this be the season that it all changes?
Well, yeah, we'll certainly have to see. Speaking of how the season is going, the split is looming. Who do we fancy making the top half, Michael?
I think we're going to see Suwon up there. Definitely. I think we're going to see Jeju up there. I think, and Daegu as well, obviously. I think it's going to be the 6th place spot, which teams are going to be fighting over. I don't know between Suwon and Pohang. It is really 50-50 for me. Unfortunately, I don't think Incheon are going to do it. I just think they've lost too many games recently. The form isn't great. They really need to turn it around now if they are to do it. It's between Suwon and Pohang. Now, if Pohang they have an ACL game coming up soon. Is that correct? If they can get past that, and then that'll be a lot on their mind. Maybe concentration's taken away from the K League. The chips not down on their side, but they might shift focus from the K League to the ACL. So you could say Suwon probably have a slight advantage. They're two teams who are neck and neck, level on points with one another. Almost level on points with one another. Sorry. So it's let's see how it goes. I think it's one of them two teams.
Indeed. Well, I've actually gone for Pohang, despite what you said there. I think Incheon are running out of runway. I think Suwon Blue Wings have had their wings clipped, and Jeju could still drop out. I think Namkil has done enough to shore things up there on the island. So yeah, it's Pohang. I just think they've got enough about them, but I think it'll be more about the other teams around them not being able to seal it. I just think the other teams around them are also in poor form, and Pohang has just they've got enough talent, I think, to see them through. But we'll see.
Will Pohang have to steal to do it?
Indeed.
I see what you did there of Incheon and Suwon.
Yeah. Will Pohang have the steal to do it? Well, we will have to find out. And let's find out we shall in our upcoming podcast. But next is the Ulgi Louise mailbag. So please stay with us, and we'll be back in a bit.
Ulgi Lewis is your neighborhood British bar and cafe located in the Old Giro district of Seoul. Decorated in old English antiques and furniture for a true homely feel, you can enjoy homemade scones, cakes and afternoon tea during the day, and traditional British favourites like beef stew, English ale, and a fine selection of wines at night. Available for private parties or simply an evening out, Ulgi Lewis is sure to become your favourite neighbourhood pub. Be sure to mention K-League United at the bar during your visit, and you'll get 10% off your bill.
Welcome back to the K-League United podcast. I'm Matthew Binns, and joining me in the mailbag this week, and yes, I get to say it, Ryan. No, Ryan's not in the mailbag, but yes, joining us in the mailbag this week is Michael Redmond. Michael,
hello.
Fire away.
Yes, so we'll start off with I'm in the mailbag. I saw you completely blew me aside there and said I'm in a mailbag. It's like, what, am I a postman now or something? Postman. So we'll start off with Bob Flynn on Twitter. Do we expect Kang Hyung-moo to return from his ankle injury during the midweek match, or will we see Cho Sung-hoon in goal for Pohang?
Yeah, at this point, there's no new reports following on from the 50-50 diagnosis of whether he's likely to play or not. I would, if I was to guess, I would probably consider keeping him out and giving the rest over the international break, especially with the Champions League on the horizon. And especially as their next two games being the struggling Gwangju and the struggling Gangwon, I wouldn't see any real reason to rush him back if he could perform better in the Champions League with a bit of rest. So, yeah, his injury isn't that serious, but I think if they could rest him, I reckon they will.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. You know, they've got a couple of games coming up now, a couple of real important games that we just mentioned before the break. It'll be interesting to see if he is rested, if he is not almost fit, but at a playable state. It's interesting to see what they'll do with him.
Mm-hmm.
Shall we go on to the next one? We actually have our very own Ryan Walters on Twitter. Gangwon are bottom of the table, but still have 3 games in hand. Will they make the most of those and get clear of the relegation battle? Or do you see them fighting until the end, along with Gwangju, Songnam, and Seoul?
Well, Gangwon's remaining games until the split, they are Pohang, Jeonbuk. So I don't think they're getting anything out of those two. I say, knowing that they're versing Jeonbuk this weekend. Incheon, Jeju, Gwangju, and Seoul. Their best chances really are those last 2 games, and maybe Incheon just because of the form Incheon are in. But I think Gwangju and Seoul are the games they should really focus on. And it goes back to what we said earlier. They've got games in hand, but look at those games in hand. I wouldn't. They're not easy fixtures. They might get something, but yeah, I see it going. Yeah, to answer Ryan's question, I do see them fighting until the end because there is talent there, but it is alarming how much of a cliff they seem to have dropped off form-wise at the moment. They've lost the last 3. They're really looking out of sorts. Byung-Soo Ball is very much dead, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's looking at the fixtures myself. The Gwangju and Seoul game at the end is very interesting, especially if Gwangju is still not the bottom as such, and Seoul. We said Seoul kind of clawing out now. Very interested with them 3 teams to see what happens. But obviously, even if they go into the split bottom, we've seen teams who are bottom who have survived because they've literally just turned it around with them split games. Let's see. Let's give them the benefit and doubt and say, okay, you've got maybe 4 games more than other teams because of fixtures postponements as such. Let's give them a bit more time.
Okay. We do actually have a comment in as well, just while you're here, Michael. I feel like we probably should address it. It's worded stronger than I would have worded it, but it's about Seoul Elan's manager and whether he should be... how do you feel about him at the moment? I think I'm going to reword the question as...
Yeah, got to be careful what I say, really, about Chung Jun-young. From a fan of the club for many years. I've seen last year Chung Jun-young take Seoul Eland and completely turn them from 10th to going out of not going to the playoffs due to goal difference. So I've seen such an amazing season last season. This season started spectacular. It's the first time Seoul Eland were ever first in the K-League 2, and they were first for a good month. They beat FC Seoul in the FA Cup, which is a memory I'll remember for many years. This man has achieved so much for Seoul Eland. However, at the same time, why are we 9th? What's going on here? We've got the team. We've got the players. I mean, we've got Kim In-sung's come in now recently in the last few weeks, and he's an exceptional player. Build a statue outside the new stadium, I say. But obviously, you're looking at the players. We've got Leandro, we've got Benegas, we've got Kim In-sung in the middle. Do you know what I mean? We've got Yu Jung-ho, and we've got Lee Sang-min. These players who are like names, big names that people know well, that they've had good careers. And there's a lot of players there on good money who maybe should turn up a little bit more. However, it is Chung Jun-young's decision to bring these players in. It's Chung Jun-young's decision to play these in the position they're playing in. It's the situation's a little bit like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Manchester United. You've got half the fan base saying Ole in, half the fan base saying Ole out. I won't give my opinion. I think he should change a lot of things, but I wouldn't say out. I wouldn't say out.
I mean, you know it far better than me, so I'm not really one to add, but I would probably say as well, just his name, his reputation is probably also a reason why some of those players have signed as well, and why some of those players have bought into the project.
Would that say as well that is the point? It's like, if he leaves, who would you bring in? Obviously, I know a lot of Seoul Eland fans around me, they love In Chang-soo. He's the assistant manager. He comes into games, and he's actually managed 3 games this season because Chung Jun-young's been suspended or been elsewhere due to unforeseen circumstances. And he's got 100% record, not 100% record, 2 wins and a draw. So a lot of people are saying, bring in Chang-soo back. Seoul Eland fans will know he spent the 2018 season as manager of Seoul Eland as well. Who do you bring in, though? Because... Do you think we would have had Kim In-sung if it wasn't for Chung Jun-young? Do you think we could have brought Koo Jae-hyun in, Hwang Tae-hyun, all these players who, maybe could have started off a bit better in the K-League 1, but they've actually come to the K-League 2 to ply their trade? It's a tough one. It is a tough one. Give him one more season. I always have a theory that the second season is always your hardest one. Give him one more because it's a 3-year contract. Let him run out his contract and let's see how it goes.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens come the end of the season. I'm sure we'll be catching up with you properly on that come the Christmas recaps. But Michael, anything else in the mailbag?
Yes, we do. We have Suwon FC fan via Twitter as well. They're off on Twitter this week, I believe. So, hi, I don't understand Park Ji-soo's situation. Situation sounded like I was from Scotland then. Situation. When he finishes his loan at Gimcheon, he will go back to Suwon FC. Or will he go back to China? If he returns to China, I do not understand that Suwon signed him to play for only 3 months.
Okay, it's a good question. The military is always an interesting topic, as we did talk about at the top there with Michael recently helping out with the documentary, with the video about the side. So Park's situation is interesting, but the common situation first. Common situation is like a player applies for Gimcheon Sangmu. They must have played for 6 months in the K-League prior. So this can be a loan move. They don't have to sign for a club. Park is on loan to Suwon FC and will go back to Guangzhou FC after his time at Gimcheon is up in December 2022. However, Guangzhou FC's parent company, Evergrande, are facing severe financial difficulties, and the players have all recently been transfer listed. This is one of Asia's biggest clubs, and it's fascinating, but in a morbid curiosity, because it would be terrible for this club that's got so much history in the AFC Champions League and the Chinese Super League to suddenly just disappear. They might not disappear. I'm sure there'll be other companies that would consider investing. But yeah, Evergrande are facing severe financial difficulties. Guangzhou FC's players have all been recently transfer listed. Not Guangzhou FC's, they're not down yet. And if Guangzhou FC were to fold, Park would then become a free agent upon leaving Gimcheon. So the precedent for this would actually be over Kwon Kyung-won, who's now at Songnam. Kwon was loaned to Jeonbuk for 6 months from Tianhai to gain access to Gimcheon. But then the Chinese club went bust, and he was allowed to explore options upon completing his military contract. So Park Ji-soo could re-sign for Suwon if they offered him a contract. But we'll have to see that. A side question, though, and it was something I was thinking of when I saw this question come in, and it's something I wanted to weigh as a hypothetical to the listeners, perhaps, because we have run out for time. But K-League clubs with any budget should be circling Guangzhou. With a budget, there should be emphasis on this. Some of these players are on ridiculous contracts. But Guangzhou took the time to naturalize a number of their foreigners so they could be signed as a domestic player in the Chinese Super League. But with that means they could be signed under the Asian quota here in Korea. So perhaps this would include the likes of Jiang Guangtai, or previously known as Tierce Browning, who played for Everton, Sunderland, Wigan, Alan Carvalho, or Alan, as he's currently known by his Chinese name, and Akerson, or Elkerson, as he was previously known. These are all naturalized Chinese players now. I would imagine that they could sign for another club in the AFC Federation as under the Asian quota. That's how I would understand it. I might be wrong on that, but it's certainly a hypothetical potentially worth to explore. If Guangzhou do sell them, I should say.
Well, yeah, there's a certain team in the K-League too seem to be throwing a lot of money around at the minute. I wouldn't mind having the next Premier League player playing in Mokdong, because we won't be in Jamshul next year, playing in Mokdong next season. Yeah.
Oh, be deadly watching them link up with Kim In-sung. But yes, so any more in the mailbag, Michael?
Let me have a look. My mailbag is empty, I believe. Yes.
Okay, well then I will lead us out, and I'll lead us out with Patreon. If you like what you do and you want to support us, you can do so over on Patreon, patreon.com/K-League United. Over there, we have So Rare exclusive features. For those playing So Rare, we provide weekly team news, including injuries, suspensions, transfer rumors, and more. That's at our K2 champion tier at $5. Or for our $10 tier, we also provide weekly predictions of the starting lineups. They also put on their full player interview videos, podcast extras, early exclusives. There's tiers starting as low as $1. There's also $3 and $5 tiers available. Finally, if you'd like to contact us, you can do so all on social media at K-League United. That's Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Not TikTok yet, but we'll see. We'll get some of your dancing on there, Michael. And you can listen to this podcast live on Thursday on Football Nation Radio. But if you'd like to listen to us on the go, you can subscribe via iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, and more. So leave a review and you will get entered into next month's K-League kit contest, which I don't believe has been decided yet, or has not been made known to me. So that will be announced in next week's podcast. But for now, I've been Matthew Binns. Thank you from Michael. Whoa.
Did you just forget my name there?
No, I forgot how you end a podcast. I forgot. I just run it up there. Run it up. Just forgotten how to end it. This is live, everyone. Yes, but thank you from me, Matthew Binns, and from Michael Redmond. And thanks so much for listening.
Goodbye.
Bye.